Hello, welcome back. So we are proceeding straight from where we ended from the previous video. Our next task is to complete the subtask of calculating the water bill by finishing up the get service charge function. And as we said, this function will be responsible for returning the correct service charge based on the past customer category. So the customer category will be passed to this function, and then based on that category, this function is going to return to us the appropriate service charge basing on that particular category that was passed to it. So here is the proposed flowchart for this function. We are going to say start, and then in our minds we know that for this function to execute, it needs an input, right? And that input is the customer's category. So we are going to assume that that category has already been passed to this function, okay? So if we already have that category, we're going to check if that category is equal to R, is equal to residential. Then we are going to say the service charge SC will be 3,000. Okay, we are going to set the service charge to 3,000, and then we are going to return that service charge. Can you see? So this function is going to return a value, and it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense. You need to return that service charge. Okay, we are going to pass you the customer's category. You're going to tell us what is the appropriate service charge based on that category that we passed to you. Okay, however, if the customer's category was not residential, maybe it was commercial, in that case, you're going to say the service charge is that much, and then you're going to return it back. You're going to return it, okay? You're going to return it. However, what if the service charge was not residential, and it was not commercial? In that case, maybe it was industrial, maybe it was industrial. So what do we do if it was industrial? We are going to say the service charge is this much, and then we are going to do what? We are going to return the service charge, okay? Yeah, and whenever you return, that is the end of your function, okay? Once you return, then your function stops right there, okay? Yeah. So, somebody may be asking, we didn't do this before? Yes, actually, it was not even in the list of subtasks. When I listed those subtasks, I never listed the subtask of getting the service charge, okay? It was not even on the list, but however, I just decided to include it, okay? So what does this show? This shows that you as a programmer, feel free to be flexible, okay? You are the one who is designing your program. So you have the power to choose what modules you want, what modules you don't want, okay? You have the power to decide, okay? Yeah, so the only intuition that will help you to decide whether to keep something as a subtask or to keep it or to not keep it as a subtask, the reason for you to decide whether to keep something as a subtask, whether to implement something as a separate function or not, the main reason for you to decide is just try to look at it. Is it sufficient enough to be a subtask, or is it too small to be considered a subtask? You get my point? If it is sufficient enough to be a subtask, if it involves some steps, okay, to arrive at a particular answer, it is worth it to consider it as a subtask. You get my point? Yeah, yeah. So sometimes you may just want to include this one as part of the code of the calculate water bill function. You could do that, okay? I think before when we did it like that. But also this time around, I have seen that it consists of quite a number of steps that qualify it to be a separate function. You get my point? Yeah. So just be flexible. You are the designer of your program. You are the programmer. Just feel flexible. As long as you have understood, as long as you know what you're doing, go ahead and do it. Okay? So let us implement our flowchart. Okay? Now I just want to show you something here. You see, I can use if, and then here I can say else if, and then here I can say else if. Fine, no problem. Okay? But can you also see that these are exact values? Okay? If the category is equal to R, if the category is equal to C, if the category is equal to I. Can you see that these are exact values? Okay, and whenever you have exact values like this, you can use a switch. Okay, you can use a switch statement. So I may also decide to implement this flowchart by using a switch statement instead of an if statement. Okay, so let us do that. So I'm going to create a function called get service charge. Okay, this function needs input, and the input that it needs is the customer's category. Okay, and the customer's category is the data type of the customer's category is a character. Okay, char data type. You remember, it can be R or C or I. So you're going to say char character, char category. Okay, and then this function. Okay, inside here you're going to write the instructions that will be executed whenever this function is called. Okay, but don't forget, you have to say whether this function will return a value or not. Okay, so this function is going to return the service charge, which could be a double or an integer. In this case, they were all integers, by the way, so you can even decide to put this int here. Okay, because it was just 3,000, 10,000, and 25,000, so you can just put int. Okay, so inside here you're going to say, you're going to switch. What are we switching? You are switching the category. You get my point? And what are we saying here? We are saying if the category is R, okay, if the category is R, what do you want to do? If the category is R, we are just going to return 3,000. Okay. What about the case when the category is C? If the category is C, we are just going to return 7,000. Okay, and if the category is I, we are just going to return, sorry, this is 10,000. And if the category was this much, we are just going to return 25,000. Okay, yeah. Now, if you use return, now somebody may be asking, why am I not putting break here? Why am I not putting break? So there is no need to put break, okay? Because once you put return, you are simply saying the switch should stop and the function should also stop, and then this value should be returned. You get my point? Yes. So if I put return is a statement which says whatever was going on within this function should stop, and this value should be and this value should be returned. Okay, so I don't need to put break here. I don't need to put break, because there is no way that when this statement is executed, there is no way that the program will still continue down. No. Once I execute this part, the program will stop right there, and that particular value will be returned. You get my point? Or if the category was C and I execute this part, the execution will stop right here. The function will stop right here. It will terminate right here, and this particular value, which is 10,000, will be what? Will be returned. Okay? Yes. So once we have implemented, so somebody, okay, maybe just before I move on to continue to test the calculate water bill function, because now our get service charge is ready, so we can actually test the calculate water bill function. Okay, before I go on to do that, somebody may be asking here, what if the category is not R and it is not C and it is not I? Okay, so we are going to ensure that the user will always enter the valid category. So we do expect that by the time this function is being called, whatever value is in this variable will always be either of R or C or I. You get my point? Yeah. So you shouldn't worry about that. We are going to make sure that by the time we are calling this function, whatever value is in this variable will either be R or C or I. So we are going to create a mechanism to ensure that by the time this function is called, we always have a valid a valid category. Okay, but if you are worried, you can you can see how I would take care of that, but you don't have to be worried. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and head over to the next video whereby we test our calculate water bill function.